All right. Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you on some topics this morning. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yes, Mataji, we are able to hear you.
Good morning, everyone. I apologize. I'm trying to figure out the YouTube recording, but my camera is having some issue on the laptop because it was being used for school. I think it's being tied up with another application. But thank you so much for having me on this call. Good morning and happy Saturday. I know the things that are around us right now are really chaotic, and I'm going to begin by chanting some prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and from there we will continue.
Mataji, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Sorry to interrupt. Before you continue, we would like to give a brief introduction about you to all the devotees present on the call. So,
Okay.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna to all the dear devotees present. Please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Today we are very blessed to have a special talk on our present situation. And Her Grace Gopi Gita Shumakar Mataji is going to give us her valuable talk on handling children in the current situation. Her Grace Gopi Gita Mataji has an impressive over 20 years of teach and train experience behind her. This has enabled her to groom more and more parents and kids in Krishna conscious umbrella with a unique hands-on approach. Her sincerity and dedication has driven her to take up the post of Regional Secretary for the ISKCON Ministry of Education. She is also the project manager of the annual Mayor's event, Festival of Joy Rath Yatra, and she is also the vice principal of the TKG Academy in Dallas, Texas, the first school established by ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. Having grown up amidst the bliss of Vaishnava traditions in America, her goal is to reach out to every family within America and beyond and help them explore the beautiful relationships and real happiness of being in Krishna consciousness. Her happy family includes her husband, Rupa Shumaker, who is also a second-generation devotee and a software engineer, a 17-year-old son, Braja, who is in the second year of college, and a 14-year-old Nitai, who is in the 10th grade. Let's welcome Mataji by paying obeisances to her and all the devotees assembled. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. With this, I'm handing over the call to Her Grace Gopi Gita Mataji. Mataji, you can take over. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Who is speaking right now? Who was just speaking? Yes, who was just, what is the name, your name, Mataji, who just gave the introduction?
This is Jyoti.
Hare Krishna, Jyoti Mataji. Thank you for your kind words. I'm not that exalted or that great, and I just wanted to offer my humble obeisances to all of you. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I've been watching the parenting groups here and there, going and taking a look at all the activities that you're doing, and really who should be glorified are Anjana Gopika Mataji, Priti Vilasini Mataji, Sita Priti Mataji, so many more of you, and all of you moms and dads who are like home with your kids right now, trying to figure out how to engage them, staying strong in your bhakti practices even during this time. And so I offer my obeisances to all of you. I will start with Pranam Mantra to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And so I'm going to read a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam to get us in the mood for this talk. We're remembering, and other devotees have also remembered, that this time is very similar to when Krishna and the whole community of Vraja, Vrindavan Dham, had to go on lockdown, where everybody was home with their families, meaning not home with their families, but everybody was with their families and with Krishna all in one place. And you all must know what that time was, when Krishna had lifted the Govardhan hill. And during that time, the wrath of Indra, we have so many different types of miseries that hit us. And one of the miseries is Adidevik, which is what's happening right now with this COVID virus situation. And it's the same, the Adidevik misery had been inflicted upon the Vrajavasis because of Indra's arrogance and anger. And so Krishna had gathered all of the Vrajavasis under the Govardhan hill. So the verse here, that it's a beautiful verse of the Vrajavasis calling out to Krishna to ask for his help during that time. I'll recite that verse, and as I recite that verse, we can also pray to Krishna, and I am praying to Krishna that in the next half an hour or 45 minutes, I can give you a little bit of feedback that can help during this time with your children. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Krishna Mahabhaga, Tvannatham Gokulam Prabho, Tratumarhasi Devanna, Kupitad Bhaktavatsala. Krishna Krishna Mahabhaga, Tvannatham Gokulam Prabho, Tratumarhasi Devanna, Kupitad Bhaktavatsala. Krishna Krishna Mahabhaga, Tvannatham Gokulam Prabho, Tratumarhasi Devanna, Kupitad Bhaktavatsala. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 25, Text 13. Now, my dear devotees who are listening, my dear parents, please forgive me. I'm going to be speaking very quickly. If I'm speaking too fast, please do let me know. Just interrupt me and ask me to slow down. This is because there are so many things to share, so many important things to share for you during this time. I will try to focus in on one or two things. But some really, really important points to be made at this time. And the translation is, Krishna, Krishna, O most fortunate one, please deliver the cows from the wrath of Indra. O Lord, you are so affectionate to your devotees. Please save us also. So when Indra was pouring down the torrential rain, he asked the Lord, the devotees, the countless men and women had addressed the Lord this way. And the first thing they asked is, please deliver the cows. And so just like we have our dependents with us, we have our children, they are our responsibility. In the same way, the cowherd men and women, the gopas and gopis, their responsibility was the cows. And it was okay that they had asked the Lord to ask immediately to take care of their dependents, which was the cows. In the same way today, we are asking the Lord, my dear Lord, please help me in taking care of my children during this time. So that's the first thing that we're going to start off with, is that it is okay to talk to Krishna. It is okay to ask Krishna for help in your parenting duties. If during the last 3 weeks you have been feeling very frustrated and very disturbed and confused and alarmed and full of panic and fear, and if that's reverberating with your children, that is completely natural. Allow yourself to feel that. I have been feeling that. Everyone I know around me has been feeling that. Our life as we know it has drastically changed. The world is shutting down gradually. There's a big unknown in the next month or two. Every time you go up anywhere, on any WhatsApp group or any Facebook post or any social media or talk to any friends, the big topic of the day is how many people are dying, and how many more people are dying, and how we cannot see anybody and we must stay home, and how grocery stores are being empty. And, you all know what's going on, and I'm sure you're having many discussions here in the Bhakti Sangha Japa group of these topics. So it is completely natural to feel worried and fear, especially as parents. The most important relationship we have in our human life as a mother and a father, because that's where our love, intense biological love, pours out without us even knowing why there's so much intensity of love. And so you may not even be feeling confused or worried about yourself as much as you would be worried about your children. And I know this firsthand. 2 weeks ago, my boys were still in Vrindavan, and I had come back to America. We had taken a 2-month trip this year to Vrindavan, and we had come back just during this time when things had started up. And when the boys, they left Delhi, they had to go from one airport to the next because of so many delays because of the virus. And suddenly, Donald Trump had just gone on to the news and said that he's closing all the borders. And it was Thursday evening, and I was just on a Festival of Joy call with the team, just about to make the final decision that this Festival of Joy is being canceled. So I'm on the call at 9 o'clock. I had just started the call, and my husband comes rushing in the room and says, Donald Trump has closed the borders, which means we don't know if our boys can come back. And just at that moment, my boys had left Delhi. They had been up in the air for an hour. Their flight was 3 hours delayed, and they had landed they were going to land in Frankfurt, Germany, and I didn't know. Does that mean that they will not be able to come back home? And that worry and that fear that entered my heart at that time was like, definitely like a mother's worry. And so the worry and the fear and the underlying anxiety that you may be feeling, it's natural, and it's okay to go immediately to Krishna when you're chanting your japa every single day and say, my dear Lord, please help protect my cows. Please help protect my children. And please help us navigate this circumstance. So, on the other side, we are noticing that just as the Lord lifted the Govardhan hill so beautifully, he said, please don't worry. I'm here to take care of you. And I am going to, this is what he said, I must therefore protect the coward community by my transcendental potency, for I am their shelter. I am their master, and indeed they are my own family. After all, I have taken a vow to protect my devotees. So you go and you talk to him and you request him for his shelter. And he has made this vow that you are my shelter, my dear mothers and fathers. I am your master, Krishna is saying. Tumhare loite ami hoinu avatar. And you are my own family. Your children are my children. Your wives and husbands and all of your parents and everybody, you are mine. And I have taken a vow to protect you. So he lifted up the Govardhan hill as easily as a child holds up a mushroom. Krishna comes again and again with all of his miraculous activities for us to remember that he is our hero. And the Vrajavasis called to him regularly. Every time they were in panic and anxiety, they called to him. So it is okay. It is not only okay, it is absolutely very vital that we take the time every morning to call to Krishna for help, to allow him to be our hero. And thus, when Krishna was under the hill, now he got all of his Vrajavasis, everyone with him all day and all night, and they forgot their hunger and thirst. And putting aside all considerations of personal pleasure, Krishna himself put aside the considerations of personal pleasure, and he stood there holding the hill for 7 days as the people of Vraja gazed upon him. So we know that when the devotees, when the coward boys would go home after being with Krishna all during the day, they would feel so bad, like they didn't want to leave Krishna. They wanted to be with him all the time. And when the gopis would watch Krishna go off to the forest, they would feel bad. They want to be with him all the time. And the mothers and the leaves and the deer and the trees and everybody wanted to just be with Krishna all the time. So one time there was a discussion between Brahma and Lord Indra. And Lord Brahma was saying that, Lord Indra, Indra, Krishna likes you better than me. And Indra said, absolutely not. You have a higher status, a higher service in this universe than I do. Why do you say Krishna likes you more than me? And this is in the story of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita with Gopi Kumar as he's journeying from to the different planets and levels. And Brahma said, because when you performed your, task of arrogance, when you became covered in arrogance, what you were doing was bringing all the Vrajavasis closer to Krishna. Whereas when I became arrogant and stole the cows and coward boys and put them in a cave, I took away all the devotees. And so because of that, Krishna just gave you a slight admonishment, whereas with me, he was very, very upset. And so Krishna loves bringing his devotees together. The whole purpose of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sankirtan, Sangakirtan, bringing the devotees together. And we may be feeling like a little bit of relief, like, oh, so many of us, like I know the school kids, they're always wondering when can summer be prolonged, or maybe why do we have to go to school? Why don't we have to go to school? So even though the external reason is something full of panic and anxiety, all the kids are pretty happy that they don't have to go to school. I'm sure there's some happiness with the dads and moms who don't have to go to work, that I get to eat lunch with my family instead of having to pack a lunch and take it, or eat dinner late at night. And so there are a lot of blessings also coming up at this time. So I'm going to share a few blessings that we can be attentive to in the next few minutes. And specifically, I'm going to share bhakti principles of raising children, educating children, working with children, that we can really stay focused on during this time. This is a time for deep internal connection with ourselves, with our Lord, and with our families. And in our families, the most important people we need to connect with are not the adults. The most important people we need to connect with are the children, because they are going through a period of time that they don't completely understand, knowing their age, and yet the way that they see us act and react, and the way they see the world act and react during this time, will be a foundation for how they see themselves and how they react in future mishaps or challenges or obstacles they face in their life. They're learning right now how people react when things get rough. How does the world act? How does our community act? How do my parents act? And so at this time we can slow down. And even if life is even more chaotic, this last week was very chaotic for me. Gurukul started up again, and we had to shift over to online teaching, and it was a very stressful time this past week. But still, we can take the time to process the stress ourselves, try not to dump it on our children as much as is possible. It's not always possible. And keep a stronger, more authentic relationship with your children, because the externals have been cut out. And so how can we deepen that connection with our children? There are 6 steps. And in these 6 steps, I will touch on them slightly, and then when I open up for questions and answers, you can request me to go into detail about any of the 6 steps. Each of these 6 steps can be a whole talk, a whole 30-minute talk in and of themselves, but I'm going to just touch on these 6 steps, and you can also write them down if you need to. The first step is communication. It's really very important, especially for those of us who have not been raised in an environment where we have a lot of verbal communication. Your children are mostly in schools where there's a lot of verbal communication, and there's quite a bit of communication happening if they're plugged in online, depending on their age, or watching the news through you, or hearing about with their friends, texting or chatting or talking on the phone. Quite a bit of communication happening about the COVID virus. And so you want to increase your verbal communication with your children. And how do you do that? You can start the day with a family get-together. You can start the day with everybody discussing what the tasks are, what you're planning on doing that day, what is your child planning on doing that day. Allow them to ask questions. Allow them to and answer their questions. Don't hide the truth from them. At the same time, give them a chance to ask why and answer why. and ask them, why do you think this is happening? Now, I know I'm saying this kind of speaking to the choir here because I've been seeing on the parenting groups how much communication is happening, how many new programs have started, how much you're discussing with your children, engaging with your children. Padmasaki Mataji's children did that wonderful whole presentation. So I'm speaking to the choir here. But mainly, the children are going to start feeling a little bit of upset and panic. And it's going to show, especially the younger ones, but also the older ones, it's either going to show in a fight or flight response. They will feel a little bit more like they want to argue with each other, and they'll be a little more unsettled, so they'll be arguing a little more, frustrated a little more, upset a little more, or on the flip side, they will become quieter, and they will shut down, and they will retreat. So having very, very like traditions, like routines of communication established in the house will help them. In schools, there are traditions of communication established. We have circle time at the beginning and at the end of the day. We have group, partner, pair, share talk, all kinds of routines established to give children chances to talk. And what may happen is that your children need to feel that their thoughts and their feelings are really valuable. The way you establish a deep connection with a child through their heart is by allowing them to speak what's in their mind and by not judging them for those thought processes that they have. So if they say, I hate this, and you say, no, but I don't say that, it's not appropriate to talk like that, stop talking like that, then that shuts that child's connection down. It shuts the connection between you and him down, and you can take a look at the How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk book to give you some suggestions and some ideas on other ways to respond when your children are feeling intense feelings. And so communication means setting routines for when you can talk to them, at the beginning of the day, the end of the day, and even you sharing what you're feeling frustrated about or how your day went. Was it hard or difficult or easy or not? And allowing an open space to vent out because they're also not getting a chance to speak to their friends or their teachers. All of us are now just stuck with four walls with just our immediate families. So communication is really key. That's number one. Number two, I've touched on a little bit, it's encouraging the why. Little kids will have a time where they're asking a lot of whys. And if they're not asking because they're not used to or they haven't been allowed to ask why and they haven't been allowed to question, it's important right now to allow them to question. To question why is this happening, what's going on, or instead of asking why the big items are happening, they may even just seem to be more defiant than usual because they aren't able to articulate that they have questions about what's going on in the big world. So they'll start questioning you and showing a little bit of defiance, a little bit of challenge in all the day-to-day stuff. And so in the day-to-day stuff, because their routines have changed, they're not in school anymore, or the little ones aren't going out to play or going to their extracurricular activities, they'll start showing a little bit of challenge or defiance in their usual activities like eating, cooking, playing, cleaning, doing their chores. And so it helps to flip that back on them and give them a feeling of control. We're all feeling a little bit of lack of control in this circumstance, and it makes all of us a little challenging and a little bit a little defiant, a little rebellious because we're all feeling a little bit of a lack of control. And so giving them that control back by asking them why. Why did you make it like that? Why do you want to eat that? Why do you think this is happening? Why do you think it's important that we do this? Ask them why, and even ask them bigger questions of why, more philosophical ones if you're daily reading the scripture with them. Allow them to give their ideas, their perspective, their reflections on the scriptures, on the big ticket philosophical talks. Watch a news video with them, something going on in the news, and then ask them. Make sure it's not too scary for the younger ones, but definitely for the older ones. Watch the news with them and then ask them, what do you think about this? Do you think we should have stay at home and shelter in place? What are your thoughts? And then when they give their thoughts on current events, give them appreciation or acknowledgement. You don't have to give them appreciation if we don't want to increase their egos, but you can give them acknowledgement for the thoughts that they're sharing. Oh, I didn't think of it that way. You can say, that's a nice perspective. That's a Vaishnava perspective. That shows me responsibility or integrity, or, give them a little bit of acknowledgement for when they share their reasons and their purposes. And the whole reason for this is now they're at home. They're probably bored to death. And many of them may be spending way much more time on TV than needed. Of course, you're Bhakti parents. You're probably already very aware of that. I can see Anjana Gopika Mataji and others have created so many ways for them to be engaged, so that's so excellent. You want in this time to be able to give them a chance to develop their own purpose. What is their purpose? And that comes us to number 3, the why. Allowing them to question and answer why starts bringing them to identity. What is their identity? Every child has taken birth with a certain psychophysical nature and connected directly to Krishna. Each of us have our spiritual identity, and those children who are taken birth in bhakti homes, sages, demigods, and aristocrats, from their previous life, they already have a very intrinsic sense of purpose. The problem is that that purpose gets dumbed down by many, many, many instructions thrown at them all during the day, and not a chance to allow them to identify what they enjoy doing, what they like doing, how they want to live their life and serve and do. We put our ideas of the way we want them to be on their heads. Even a 3-year-old, different 3-year-olds will show their different inclinations and their different purposes. My younger son was always working with his hands. My older son was very linguistic. He loved language and listening to classes just through hearing. Both of them showed, even in our school, we see every child meanders and goes to the different works that they choose. Montessori has that system. Waldorf has a similar system, a more intrinsic way of connecting with a child to see what is their inclination, what is their proclivity. Not that everybody has to become doctors and engineers, but everyone has a psychophysical nature that is given to them by the Supreme Lord, and that is the way that they will become powerful. My sister loves to sing, and she's loved to sing since she was very young, and wear makeup, and right now she's doing kirtan for millions of people all around the world for the past 10 years. I also love to sing, but I rather read and teach, and I'm more into education, and that's what I was starting to do. But when I was 13, 14, 15 in America, all of our friends that were raised in America, every single one of them, all of the congregation girls, were all becoming doctors. It was a great big pressure for us to become doctors, and even I thought I was going to be an anesthesiologist. I got accepted into a medical university, but it wasn't what it was at the heart of who I wanted to be. And luckily my parents were introspective enough and bhakti parents enough that they allowed me to identify that, wait, you know what? I don't want to do this. I want to teach in a Krishna conscious environment, and I would like to be a teacher. And so my father, he accepted. Some of my family relatives didn't appreciate this time when they're home with you and when you're really getting a chance to be with them all day. Of course, you may be working as well, but so whatever chance you are, allow them to start identifying what they enjoy and who they are and what their purpose is in this world and what exactly has Krishna taught, Krishna brought to them, how they will make a change and how they will affect others. And that brings us to process versus product. And so the process itself is really important in establishing one's internal purpose, not just the result. And we're all seeing today is March 28th. And those of you who are here in Dallas know today was the Festival of Joy. I am lucky to be serving as a project manager for this festival. It's my heart and soul. In the month of January, February, March, this is like usually my main meditation in addition to my school service and education service. And today was the day that we were all going to be pulling Lord Jagannath down Clyde Warren Park, down the Arts District in Dallas, and have our 3rd annual Rath Yatra. And it's all canceled out. We were working on it since November. So many devotees, so many teams had already started their planning. And suddenly the whole thing shut down. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur ma te sangastva karmani. We can do our work, and we can try and do work, but you will see that no matter how much endeavor and how much effort we make, something like this can show up where some random Chinese devotee, Chinese gentleman or gentle lady or however you want to call them, will eat some random weird animal and the bat virus will go into the air and now suddenly it's all over and everything's shutting down. So you never know what's going to happen. We have absolutely no control over the product, over the result. We only have control over the process, the work. And that's why Krishna, even in Bhakti Yoga, tells the gopis when he sees them at Kurukshetra, that my dear devotees, the only thing I can give you in return is the bhakti process itself. The focus, the Sadhana Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti processes that you're following, the happiness that you get in loving me, the only thing I can give you back in return is that same happiness in continuing to love me. Napareham. There is no actual result, external result that I can give you that will satisfy you more than the actual bhakti process. And this is brought to our children by allowing them to have more strength in the process than in the product. And so this is such an important message that we forget, that we think that we have to just have them externally show some product. Oh, let's make a craft. Okay, the craft needs to look like this. Oh, you don't know how to do the craft? Let me do it for you. And we move the pieces around so that the external product is perfect. But we don't realize that in that whole interaction, we've just told the child, you're not allowed to make mistakes. You can never fail. I don't trust the way you're making this craft. I don't trust the way that you're going to handle yourself or develop your own skills because I'd rather that the product be better. And I'm going to linger on this a little bit. In Montessori, there's a story of a child who's 6 months old who's trying to climb up the steps. And when they come to the 4th step, they start hitting ba, 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 and wanting the mother to help them climb up the top of the rest of the steps. And they start screaming and shouting and struggling a little more, and the well-intentioned, loving mother picks up the child and brings them all the way to the top of the steps. And the child continues to do that every time they hit the 4th and 5th step. The child picks them up and brings them back to the top. What is that child learning? My mother doesn't trust that I can figure out how to climb the rest of the 7 stairs. I've already climbed 4. No, my mother thinks that I need her help and she is the only one who can make me successful because the end result is that I need to be at the top of the steps. The process itself, the struggle and fail process is not important. The result is important. And we have this issue in our society and in our culture where it creates so much competition. And instead of enjoying the process of one's work, one ends up struggling to see a result. But then Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita has said, the result is not important. Why are we focusing so much on the result? So how does this show? It shows when you do your work for your children. It shows when you do your chores for your children when they have not completed their chores. It shows when they pour a gallon of milk into a bowl of cereal and the milk falls everywhere and you yell at them. Instead of saying, hey, please just go clean up that mess. Let's clean it up together. It shows when you get upset at them for making mistakes. And so in the school environment, and it can be established in the home environment, we create a mood of the process. The actual tasks that I'm doing are more important than the results. When my child had a science fair project when he was like 6 years old, I had not yet fully imbibed this, and he made the science fair project at the school and then came home to fix it up, and I just rejected it. No, beta, it's such a mess. Let's do it again, and I did the whole thing for him. And then later on afterwards, I realized all of the messages that I was giving him was that he was a failure, he was not good enough. It's more important that I show a big image conscious reputation. Look at how great my child is, whereas everybody can see no 6-year-old can make that kind of a poster. It's okay if the edges are frayed. It's okay if the paint isn't perfect. Through the process of that child doing it incorrectly and then seeing the correct way to do it or gradually working with that child through the process within 2 or 3 years, you will see that the product will become so much stronger because the product is coming from the child's mistakes. And when a child is allowed to make mistakes and not coming in and fixing it for the child, but guiding them with your instructions. Oh, what about doing it like this? What do you think about that? And then acknowledging everything they did correctly. That's how within 2 or 3 years you see children who are independently working on making excellent products. And so that was the fourth thing. And I'm just going to finish up with the fifth one. I'm summarizing the last three. Meaningful engagement. So right now the kids are really bored. And I'm already seeing that you're doing meaningful engagement. So many like little activities are coming up. Cooking is a very meaningful engagement. Right now, today, you can teach your 3-year-old how to put toast in the toaster and put cream cheese on it. And the first time they do it, they will make a mess. And the second time they do it, they will make a mess. And you will not berate them for the mess they make. You will say, oh, yeah, look, you got the cream cheese this much on the bread. Excellent. And you will wipe up the mess quietly because the child will see, okay, if I want to do it perfectly, I will also need to wipe up the mess. But you will acknowledge the way they put the cream cheese. They can take the dishes out of the dishwasher. They can put the dishes in the dishwasher. And the first 3 or 4 times, you do it with them, guiding them, making it a wonderful, loving activity. By the time both of my children were 5 and 6, they could cook meals in the room, in the kitchen. In our Montessori classroom at the Gurukul, 3 and 4-year-olds are cutting cucumbers and slicing apples and placing the apples in a bowl to go offer to the Gopal deity and passing out the apples to all their friends and taking the bowls that all their friends ate from and going to the sink and washing. That is meaningful engagement. Meaningful engagement is not just having your minds in math, science, and all the textbooks. All of our children can be taking this time to develop our cooking skills right now. And those skills that they develop will increase their confidence so much that it will automatically make them confident for doing their studies. So both of my boys are in college. My younger one is 16. My younger one's 15. My older one is now 18. My 18-year-old is 3 years ahead in his college, and my younger one has already started college courses at the local community college. He's very young, but he's already done I think 9 credits have already been under his belt. And right now, college online are all online courses, and he manages his own schedule. And in addition, he does what he enjoys doing, which is creating things for his his 3D printer and making YouTube videos. And in addition, he comes down and plays on the flute, and Raju will play the mridanga, and we have kirtan. And yesterday, he made a whole bunch of lunch for us. Raju cooked for Ekadashi, and Nitai cooked the stuffed shells, whole 4 trays of stuffed shells for our lunch yesterday. And they did this without me having to have any reminders, any questions. And this is because I followed these principles not just during coronavirus, but during every time of their life where I gave them meaningful engagement where they felt like they were a part of the family. And so there's meaningful engagement you can give at all different ages and stages, from age 3 to 5 to 10. I gave a seminar recently at the Mayapur Institute, a 5-day talk, 5-day workshop, where I went through all of the details of these topics. But that's the summary of a few points. The first one is communicate with them, talk to them, allow them to speak, have a daily tradition of routine of communication of what you're planning on doing and what they're planning on doing. That will encourage their sense of purpose during this time so they won't feel lost and bored. Number 2, encourage their whys. Ask them why. Why do you think this is happening? What do you think about this? Let's listen to current events. How would you deal with this? Let their thoughts become important and valuable. Number 3, you're going to give them the sense of purpose by allowing their thoughts to be valuable and letting them see what they enjoy doing. Generally, when younger kids are quietly working, you think, oh, they're making a mess, they're making a mess. Go deeper into it. Are they playing with water? That means they like to play with their hands. And that was number 3. Number 4 is process is more important than product. Please allow your children to make mistakes and don't rush in to fix the problem. Allow them to put their shoes on by themselves. Allow them to figure out how to do their homework through questions and self-reflection. And the last one is meaningful engagement. And this meaningful engagement means allowing them to work alongside you in the house as you're doing it. And if you're on the computer needing to do your live sessions with Zoom or all of your work sessions, then have a discussion with them and say, hey, this is what needs to be done. And let's let me know what you'd like to do during this time that I'm working, and I will help you. And let them struggle a little. Let them feel a little boredom. And then when they do figure out things to do, then you say, oh, acknowledge it using active recognition principles. And all of this together can be offered in service to the Lord. At the end of the day, you all again come together, establish that routine as a family. And I know it's exhausting. I know I'm giving a lot of tips for all of us to do, and we're probably all really overwhelmed right now with work. I know I was this week. So try your best to do what you can out of these tips that I'm giving. And even if you can only implement one a day, that is okay, or one a week, because I know there's the day-to-day struggles right now of our jobs and our family and the anxiety inside of us. So be flexible, and it's okay if everything doesn't go perfectly right now, because Krishna is here. He has lifted the Govardhan Hill, and he will protect us, and we are his family, and we will turn to him in this crisis, and he will take care of us. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. Is there any questions? Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Mataji.
नहीं आप बोलिए माता जी.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much. It was so nice class. It's a lot of important points to learn from you, Mataji. Very, very inspiring, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji, for your time. If anybody has any question or comment for Mataji, they can go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Dandatanam, Gopi, Gita Mataji. Very nice class. I have a question. I have been listening to the whole class, and my only question is, younger kids are much more easily adaptable to changing situations, whereas for teenagers it might be a challenge because they're in a different phase of their life. So what are one or two tips you can give for teenagers? Because what the real struggle is, like, I have a teenager and they're more into television. They just want to fight the boredom with more electronic or more like electronic overload at this point rather than getting back to work. And even if you do Krishna conscious activities, they might not engage themselves. So what are the tips or tools to kind of get them in?
Absolutely. I understand that firsthand, having two teenagers myself, and they're not really interested in crafts, and, the way that you can engage younger children, it's a lot harder to engage teenagers. So the first thing that we do with our teenagers is a lot of discussion. Their minds are right now searching for answers and reasons, and they don't know how to. They're at a space in their life where they're completely separating their identities from their parents. And because they're at that space, everything their parents say and do, they want to do kind of the opposite of it, because this is the age where they're supposed to psychologically separate from their parents. And so what I would do is sit down with them and have this routine of either a morning or a once-a-day discussion and ask, how did our day go? And you're supposed to treat teenagers more like a friend. You gradually, by the time they hit 15, so it's not an immediate, it's not like at age 14 you're heavy-duty mom and at age 15 suddenly you're a friend. It's a gradual process, which means you're asking them questions, and instead of spending more time giving instructions, you're allowing them to make decisions on their own. And so we've always established this since they were very young, but it definitely works with teenagers where you ask them, you say, hey guys, look, we're all stuck at home right now, and we have the opportunity to make this like a really, really powerful time in our life, or to just zone out and do nothing. And what is a way that we could all make this a powerful time? Like, you could even say, in the outside world, they're saying that, this is a real time for introspection and doing a lot of internal work. What does that mean for you? And what does that mean for us as a family? And allow them to give you suggestions for how you could do it and how your husband can do it. And then they will get feel a sense of like belonging in a psychological way, a sense of like, oh, my thoughts are valuable and I am an important part of this family. And then let me also self-reflect on what I'm doing. Give them a chance for self-reflection in the sense of like, I'm finding that I'm spending most of my time in the kitchen. Is that the best way for me to spend my time? What about you guys? How are you spending your time? What do you think about how we could spend our time? And what could we do? We're all really bored. And I know you guys are bored. I know this like environment is like super annoying. What could we do? Because being on the computers and on the internet all day and all night isn't good for our brains. And so I don't know if you've had already rules or regulations for computers and internet and stuff. That's the first tip I do, is have an open discussion with the kids without judgment. The problem is we start off as an open discussion and then we ram in with, I'm the mom, I told you so, get off the computer. But this has to be done without the judgment and allow the children first the space to even communicate what they're thinking about it. Sit down and have a discussion about it. What are we going to do with the next 7 days of our time? What are we going to do with the next 5 days? What things need to be done? If there's schoolwork that needs to be complete, if there's chores that need to be complete, make a list. Actually write down what they say. What do you think needs to be done in the next 5 days? I do this regularly with my children, Corona or not. And during Corona, I'm doing it even more because I don't like to see. It's really important that I see that my children are purpose-driven and that what they're doing with their lives and their actions are really important. And I do get upset if I think in my mind that they're doing having no business, no purpose, and they're just spending all day. But then I'll go up and sit. So then the second thing is, go and sit with them and watch what they're doing on the computer and express interest in it. We tend to as soon as they're on the computer and playing their video games or whatever, we tend to shut them out and say they're nonsense Maya, but I have no idea. I don't know how to stop it, so I'm not going to. So you can't beat them, join them. Go sit with them, pull up a chair and say, this is so interesting. What are you working on? And if it's a video game, then sit and watch the video game. Oh, that takes some skill. Oh, that takes some strategy. That takes some reasoning. I've spent 30 minutes only in the past year watching one of my sons on his Overwatch. He does play video games. It's regulated, and they're in a tournament. I'm not the same as other Dasi parents who say that don't have your children play any video games or don't have them on the computer. My husband is very much into information technology, very much in the computer. My son is going into, both of them are going into engineering and science. And so it's not practical for us to take the computer away and moderate. We do trust them, and we know that they will play what they need to play, and they understand the rules and regulations now, and the rest of their time they're creating, building, 3D designs on the computer, all kinds of stuff. But it started off 2 years ago when I decided I'm going to stop fighting this and I'm going to see what they're doing and acknowledge the good principles in what they're doing. And as soon as my boys got that acknowledgement, I was so surprised by how much it lessened. I sat with them and I said, wow, this game takes some strategy. Oh, this takes some team building. Do you think I could figure this out? Do you think I could play this game? And immediately, that evening, they were both down in the kitchen helping me with the dishes, showing interest in my life, and immediately it started lessening. The game playing started lessening. But, I'm not saying that this will happen to all of you. Some of you may be uncomfortable with this advice I'm giving, but relax and find some downtime with them. Play Monopoly, play different games, have family time that is established family time where you're building them up. Because the relationship with teenagers becomes where you're just cutting them down. And everything you just creates a bigger and bigger divide. They're the ones creating the divide. And I'm continuously keeping communication because my son is the one creating the divide. But I have to continue to listen, understand, and take my own feelings of how he should live his life. Of course, now he's 18, separate, and trust that he's going to make the right decisions. He has been my child for many, many years. He knows the right decision. I don't know if that helps. Does that help?
Yeah, surely these are very useful tips because as a parent, as I am introspecting what you're saying, we tend to do exact opposite of what you're saying. We want them to shut down. I told you I'm the mom and you need to shut down, and that creates a rift, I think we, as a Krishna conscious family, we want to minimize that rift and try to get on board with each other. So I think I totally agree what you're saying, and I will try to mend my ways because we have been approaching it from more like a very typical parenting perspective.
So thank you so much.
Anytime you tell a teenager what to do, psychologically at age 13, at age 15, children in this society are supposed to be told what to do. I'm sorry, but it is not the Vedic system. The Vedic system is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was running a store all on his own at age 13. He was married at age 12. The Vedic system is that children who are in their teenagers are just as capable, if not completely as capable as adults. And psychologically, they're establishing their identity. And this idea that children all the way up until age 25 or 50 or whatever have to just shut up and listen and be obedient is established by the British when they went and monopolized so many different cultures and countries in the world, that we want a blind following class of people that will just listen obediently, not speak up, not ask questions, and just do as I say. That is not the Vedic system. Krishna questioned Nanda Maharaj, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 500 years ago, regularly questioned, respectfully questioned, and argued with Sachimata Devi, because children who are older, they are developing their reasoning, thinking, logical skills, and saying you have to do it and getting in an argument with your children and you have to do this because I say you have to do it. It's how I was raised, and it took me a lot of reprogramming myself, especially when my kids hit teenage years, to shift. And it's not easy because, we know them since they were babies. And so it's really difficult to change their identity that now I'm not going to give them continuous instructions. Continuous instructions will increase your distance so much with your children. And so instead ask questions. What do you think about this, beta? And when they respond, acknowledge it. Even if it's a different response than what you would give, take a deep breath, acknowledge it, allow them to say what they want to do and how they want to do it, show interest. So yes, are there any other questions?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for the beautiful class. Mataji, the last point you said, like involving them in the house chores, especially cooking. I would love to do that, and I used to do that before we became Krishna conscious. But now that everything has to be so many rules, regulation, like we are not supposed to talk over the food, and my son is very talkative. I tried it, even putting a mask on his face, and I tried, and kind of things we have to go through while he cooks. It takes so much longer time, and then doing other things along with him. So how can we do it so that we do not, we can cook with him. I can cook with him, and still I keep the cleanliness for preparing prasadam. So if you could advise me.
So I'm a very, very practical educator and a very practical parent. I'm raised in America with very different standards. And so you can take what I say with a grain of salt if you don't agree. But Vaidhi Bhakti, that is established in the temple rooms, in the temple room, in the Didi service, in the temple department, is not supposed to be followed at home. Home worship is very different than Didi worship. Janani Vasprabhu came to Dallas about 7 years ago, gave a wonderful seminar, and he said, at home, it's like your children are, your Didis are your children. And in the temple room, it's like your Didis are your guests. The Didis have to be maintained with such awe and reverence, with so many rules and regulations in the temple room, at the temple, that all of those rules and regulations we think we can do in our home kitchens. But it's absolutely not practical to follow that. We give our children beads to chant when they're age 4. Give them beads to play with, to get comfortable with the beads when they're 2 years old. Yes, they're neem. They're not tulsi, so it doesn't touch the floor, but the neem beads do touch the floor. Krishna doesn't want rules and regulations. In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna talks about the transcendentalists who are born in our homes, right now our homes are being filled with Krishna's bhaktas, Krishna's devotees. And the second line of the verse where he says that, he says, they have rejected the ritualistic rules of the Vedic scriptures. They are spontaneous devotees. Sanatana Goswami found a child playing with the Madan Mohan. Prahlad Maharaj is said to be described as playing with deities of Krishna as their dolls. When I was younger, I had Gointai deities at age 6 years old that we dressed and bathed and worshipped. And yes, there are some basic, bare minimum things. Don't put it in your mouth for a young one. If they're going to give them the bell and they put the bell in their mouth, you take the bell away, you achman it and give it back. Teach very gradually not to put the bell in the mouth. We don't touch our feet to the deities. We don't place the deities on the floor when we're bathing them. But for cooking, You can talk over the food. You can have a regular, happy discussion with your child, happy interaction with your child preparing the food, and make it a joyful thing. And if the rules, intense rules, like don't talk over your food, get over the way of making it a joyful thing, then please take out the rules and let the child establish a relationship with Krishna. I had a little Gopal Didi at age 9, and I made itty-bitty little puris for my Gopal Didi. Mommy would make the big puris, and I would make the little puris. And with so much love, I would take those puris and put it on a small silver plate and go and offer it to my Gopal and look at my Gopal with my eyes and feel that my Gopal is my best friend. And allow your child to feel that relationship with the Lord by cooking for them and by establishing that. And don't worry about the rules for younger children. Please don't worry about the rules for younger children. I don't know what other rules you've heard, but those rules are for like really strict Brahmin-initiated devotees in pujari rooms. And those rules they will take away the spontaneous love for Krishna consciousness in your child. And the child will grow up feeling like they want nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. You know, like my husband, he was forced to chant japa in a certain way at the Gurukul, and he doesn't enjoy it. He doesn't, like, in his mind, he wants to make sure that our children are not forced. If they're forced to follow these useless rules that have no bearing, they don't give us love for Krishna. There are 4 main rules we need to follow. No illicit sex, no gambling, no meat eating, no intoxication. When Srila Prabhupada came in the 1960s, he listened to all of his classes from 1965 to 1972. When I was younger, this mustard seeds not on Ekadasi, this time of breaking the fast in 1976, 77, 78, 85, 90, none of these rules were followed in any of this ISKCON temples. The most important principle is love. And Raghunath Maharaj speaks about this so much. And with children, the most important principle is love. So bring your child into the kitchen, have them clean the vegetables, work with them with love. Don't be on their case about the rules they're following or they're not following. It will ruin their bhakti. Rules are the opposite of bhakti. And so that's a whole other talk I can give for hours on end.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji, for the advice. I was raised in India, so that's what I had seen around, being very, very strict with especially cooking. So that's what was in mind. But thank you for your valuable advice. I will definitely try to apply I will try my best to apply them. Thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat pranams. First of all, thank you so much for your brilliant classes, and you.
Yes. Who am I speaking to?
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat pranams. This is Lalitangi Radha Devi Dasi from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you so much for your wonderful classes. They are so practical. And so, I mean, we are getting to see a different world. You're opening our eyes. So my question is about, I have seen some of the teenagers when they especially go to high school, like we are all devotee families, we are practicing, we are outside, we go to the temple and we have bhakti vrikshas. When they come to like maybe 9th or 10th grade or something like that, they get a sense of their identity and for example, they are okay being a devotee in the bhakti vriksha group, but when it is coming to outside world, their friends, their school friends, and their other friends, they're so conscious about it. One thing is recently we went to do a Harinam before a football game, and there were 4 or 5 boys, teenagers, all above age 14. So we could see that what their concern was, if one of my classmates see me here doing kirtan, what would be, I feel very uncomfortable. I don't want to do that. So now I can see that they are trying to, choose their life. They are trying to become individual beings, and they're trying to see the weight of devotee life and the outside life. So I understand as parents we want them to be devotees, but at the same time they are individual souls with their choices and karma. So at least I don't want to make the devotee life so hard for them that they would go away from that. So how we can balance this, and what's the psychology, why they are doing this, and how to act in this situation.
I love that you're introspecting about this and that you're wondering about it. And I love that you're aware that you don't want to make the devotee life so scary. So, your daughter or son is how old?
Yeah, he's 15 years old.
Okay. So you're a 15-year-old child, and he's been in Krishna consciousness his whole childhood?
Yeah. When he was born only, we were like devotees. And
so your child, you don't need to make him a devotee. He's going to make you a devotee, number one. Our children are already, if they're born into devotees' homes who are practicing Krishna consciousness, they're already devotees. So that needs to be established first as the get-go. During teenage years is when the karma, the reason why a transcendentalist has taken birth again, that's what hits during the teenage years. I would, at age 9, at age 4, I was reciting the Bhagavatam verse with the devotees around me in the temple room. At age 6 and 7, all of us, the Gurukul, we were reciting the full Brahma Samhita and explaining it and loving Krishna consciousness and so much eagerness to share Krishna consciousness with others and with ourselves. We loved being devotees. When I hit age 12 and 13, I went to public school for 2 years, and I used to go to the temple and rub my tilak off, because there were kids there who were congregation kids who didn't wear tilak, and I didn't know that tilak. I thought that tilak made me look weird. And so I would rub my tilak off, and Mommy would get me in a fight with me, like, why is your tilak rubbed? Why are you rubbing it off? At no time when I was rubbing that tilak off did I feel like I didn't love Krishna and I wasn't a devotee of Krishna. And I felt guilt that why am I rubbing my tilak off? But the need to fit in with my peers was so much stronger at that time. And so because I wanted to fit in, I would take the tilak, rub it off, and then run in. And I didn't have parents who understood this need to fit in, this need to be accepted socially, this need to separate from what your parents believe, to establish your own identity. So when we see our kids acting in that kind of a way, we think, oh, maybe they're not going to be devotees. And then we make our thoughts come true by continuing to see them acting with their friends as not devotees. A parent talked to me during Thanksgiving break, that instead of coming to the temple for Thanksgiving, his daughter was deciding to go to a Friendsgiving, and then she didn't have time to come to the temple. That on Saturday, she did all this work. She cooked for this little gathering that she was having with her friends, and she cooked prasadam, offered it to the deities. She wanted to give her friends prasadam. She went to a friend's place and hanged out with them and had a whole Friendsgiving with a bunch of non-devotee kids. And then the next day on Sunday, she didn't have her work done complete in time to be able to come to the temple. And her father was really upset at her. How could you do this? And how do you not have your priorities? And why would you choose going to your friend's place on a holiday like this instead of coming to the temple? And I discussed with that father and said, you are looking at this completely the wrong way. Your child is naturally going to pick their friends at this time during this. They don't want to be the weird ones that are excluded. Allow them to feel confident in their identity and not automatically assume that because they're making choices that you wouldn't make, that they're not devotees. And by berating our children for their actions that seem like they're not devotees, we're actually fortifying their identity as a non-devotee. We are telling them you are not a devotee because of your externals. Instead, the father should have been so appreciative. Look at you. You're putting all of this effort and time into sharing Krishna Prasadam with your children. Active recognition principles, you can Google it. You can look it up. It's the nurtured heart approach of words that we say to our children to inspire them in their Krishna consciousness. At every step, we should be sharing to them, oh, I see how Krishna conscious you are. Oh, I see that you're uncomfortable showing your real self, showing your real heart in front of your peers. You know, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were the same way. They didn't show their Krishna consciousness. As a matter of fact, because they were in Nawab Hussein's place, they had to hide their Krishna consciousness and have hidden Bhagavad Gathas. Oh, I see that you're at every step we should see how their actions are making them devotees and are devotee-like. And it takes time because we have our own judgment on our own selves that has been put in from our families. So much judgment on our actions, what is good, what is not good. Every single one of your children's actions, even if they don't seem to be Krishna conscious, are Krishna conscious. And if you put that frame on it, and you have regular study of the scriptures with your children where they're the ones that are telling you what the scriptures are saying, then your children will always feel strong in their identity as devotees. Let's not change their identity just because poor kids have hit, a number age with a teen at the end of it, and because now they're trying to establish their own selves. And understand, I know right now today, if I went into some specific environment, I probably wouldn't go with a sari and a dhoti and tilak. Would your husband go into work with that environment? Never. And so it's absolutely natural that she feels uncomfortable to show that she's a Vaishnava with all her friends there. Absolutely natural. And actually, I would not go to her friend. I would not go to my child's school event and do kirtan there. I would go to another event and do kirtan at another place because I'm internally connected with my child and see what would make him comfortable and what would make him not comfortable. More important than the rules of sharing Sankirtan with the world is that we make sure we share Sankirtan and love and comfort with our own children who are devotees and whose feelings do matter. Is that okay, Mataji, that I say that?
That is awesome, Mataji. Thank you so much for giving this, really totally the true insight of what's happening. That really helps. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanush Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Mataji, I have one question. Sometimes I feel with my kids, means I have two kids, two daughters, and then our nature sometimes is not matched with the kids. Means by born our nature is different, and sometimes because in my case, it's my older daughter she's little different. She's like her father, and then my younger daughter she's like me, and then sometimes our nature is not matching, and we try to put them in our own way, and it comes difficulties, Mataji. Can you tell me nature, even though nature is not the way when younger daughter sees her nature is, I can understand because my nature and her nature is like almost same, and then I could feel and realize how can I deal to her. But if our nature is not matching, even it's very difficult to make the connection, even from their part they are doing so much, and then the connection we cannot make, our nature, how we can understand. I always pray to Krishna and then give the intelligence. But
Mataji, is this, please say your name, Mataji?
I'm Gopi Dasi.
Yes, I thought it was you. I didn't know for sure. Oh, Mataji, it's so nice to talk to you. You're doing so much work right now, so it's just so nice to hear you. Okay, so, I went to India and spent 2 months with my mummy right now, and my whole childhood, my mummy told me that our nature isn't matching, and it used to hurt me so much. And again, she said it to me in Mayapur, like, oh, beta, because we got in a little argument. And again, she said, look, beta, just our nature isn't matching. And at 40 years old, I had to sit down and tell her, Mommy, you're not going to say that, and I don't want to hear you say that. It's the worst thing a mom can say. But then on the other side, I understand because I had the exact same conversation with my 18-year-old when we came back from India, where he said some comment about how his nature is not matching my nature. And so we had a whole conversation. So interesting that you're bringing this up, where we discussed how we have different natures and different personalities. So that is really, it can be really hard as a mother when you have, somebody that you don't relate to or you don't understand the world the way they understand it. And so the best way I can explain to do it for your daughter, she's a really intelligent girl, is take a nature test with her and discuss it openly. Have a discussion on the details of it. There are so many different types of tests that are given in companies to identify personalities. One really basic one, I'm going to try and see if I can pull this up, but with your 14-year-old and your older children, whatever you're feeling, they're also going to be feeling double and triple. And they'll feel so much more in confidence and so much more comfortable if the conversation takes place in a respectful way. Like, hey, we have different personalities, and did you know that opposites attract? Like for me and my in the Gurukul, Mother Nitya Kishori, both of us are completely different personalities, opposite personalities. And because of that, we're able to see two sides that if we had the same personality, we would not be able to see. And we're able to see the two sides, even if we're on either side of it, we're able to come to a common ground. So when you have someone that's close to you that's in an opposite nature, it's such a plus. It's such a plus. It brings so much of a better experience because both of you can see two different sides of the coin and then discuss it where you're open to seeing her perspective and she's open to seeing your perspective. When does this difference in nature come out between you two? Like when you're saying our nature is not the same, in what way do you mean? Like how does it exhibit itself in your life?
No, Mataji, everything's when we are thinking, because the way I used to tell her, because when I used to chant, now I can realize, when I used to tell her, my daughter, to chant, and she said, no, I'll chant softly and I hear my chanting. But I used to chant little high, and then you have to chant loudly. This is even it's not our thing, because but I could realize whatever she said, that is fine, perfectly fine, because she's comfortable, she's very good to chant and comfortable to soft chant and hearing her chanting. But I say you have to chant loudly and then you can only hear, that is my means what I feel, means so many things, Mataji, everything,
So many things like that. When you give an instruction where you see it a specific way, and then they rebel against it, and they argue against it, and they feel frustrated, and they say, no, I want to do it another way. At this age, even if you had the same nature, the child will want to do it another way. I have more of a similar nature to my younger one, but he's like really always just wanting to do it his way. And suddenly he has created in his mind that I'm different, and I'm a different nature than him. So the most important advice I can give you is stop in giving instructions at age 14, 15. Prabhupada says 15 a child should be friend. If you want to make your child a friend, you don't give instructions to your friends. And so if you want to make your child a friend by age 15, that means that by age 14 you need to start working on it. Stop giving instructions. We give continuous instructions to these poor kids who are already had 10 years of instructions. It's exhausting for them. And they're done now with instructions. They have all the instructions in their deep psyche. You hear how they talk to their younger siblings. They already know all the instructions. They give that many instructions to the younger siblings. Younger siblings are their friends. And so we can stop giving instructions and we can ask them instead, how do you think my japa is? What do you think I need to work on? How am I supposed to do this? And instead of looking at what they need to do better, which is natural, because when they were one, we had to tell them how to do things better. We had to make them grow. Now that time in our life is ended. We're not supposed to make them grow. We're supposed to grow alongside them now. And so now we're going to discuss with them, like, what are better ways we can all do this as a family? And when we want to run to give the instruction, we're going to stop ourselves. Only on really big ticket items, you save it for like 2 instructions a day. You think about how the day is going. You see what instructions you just have to give them that are really important. Like if they're choosing to associate with friends that are not good for them, if they're spending way too much time on useless activities, big ticket items. If your child is sitting and chanting with you, there should be not one word spoken about how they need to chant better. Not even one word. It should only be gratitude. Thank you for chanting with me. Otherwise, we make chanting and we make spiritual activities like brushing teeth and like nag. And then when they get older, they will never choose to chant on their own because it's such a naggy thing. Is that okay?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, your all the advice are so practical, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. All right. With one more question, and then is that okay? One more question.
Mataji, this is Shyamala Gopika. Thank you so much for your wonderful class and very useful for practically implementing. Just one question, Mataji. Last time
as you suggested, I try to implement to my son for giving the time for his using the electronic items. So I tried, and some difficulties I faced in that, they following, okay, if I say that okay, only 30 minutes, and they agree to that. And after 30 minutes, when I go and ask them, so they will say, oh, 5 more minutes. So initially, okay, I thought, okay, I should not be so strict. So I'm okay. So okay, after 5 minutes you have to give. So that is fine. And he agreed, and after 5 minutes he gave. But it becomes practice. So every time it happened, okay, if I ask 30 minutes, he will take 35 minutes or 40 minutes. So extra, at least 5-10 minutes extra, if he have to take, then only he'll be satisfied. So is that fine to encourage that? It is
How old is
getting
your child?
in place. He's 9 years old.
Okay. At 9 years old, you can stay firm on the responsibility that it's 30 minutes. And what you can do is you can stay to have a conversation with him just like you're having a conversation with me. But this is an issue that I'm finding that we had discussed that you could do 30 minutes, but it's moving to 40 minutes. So would you like the time period to be actually 20 minutes and not be moved to 30 minutes? Because what I can say is instead of 30 minutes a day now, we're going back down to 20 minutes a day because you're going to end up pushing it. Or would you like to stay fixed at the 30-minute and come down at the 30-minute? Number one. Number two, Bita, you're 8 years old, you're 9 years old, you have great time management skills. I expect you to come down on your own after the 30 minutes are done. And I'll be able to see your responsibility and your, 8 is big enough for this. You know how to set a timer on your computer? You can set a timer, and the days that you come down, because playing video games is a privilege in our house, and the days that you come down, will be more excited to give you the chance again the next day to play that same game. But if you forget and you don't come down, then we will have to not have the video game the next day. Simple.
Okay, so that's a session we can do.
Boundaries, natural consequences. Natural consequences means that we've discussed this rule together. First, check with him. Is 30 minutes okay, or do you want to move it to 20? Or do you really, really feel like you have to have 40 minutes? But if you're fixed, Mataji, on your 30 minutes and you don't want it to be 40 minutes, then you say, hey, I prefer you have 15 minutes. So we can go back to what I prefer. But instead, if you'd prefer 30 minutes, then let's stick with 30 minutes. Now, another thought I'm having suddenly is 30 minutes enough for him to complete a level or 2 levels? Because our kids, we think, oh my God, they're wasting their time on their video games, but they're actually increasing their strategy and reasoning, and they're trying to accomplish different goals, and they have to make it to the next level and the next level. And so is 30 minutes enough time for him to get that out of his system? That's the question. I don't know what game it is he's playing, but you could ask him. As an 8-year-old, I think 30 minutes is plenty of time. But talk to him about it. If you're fixed at 30 minutes, then stick with 30 minutes. If it keeps going 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, then put the responsibility on him. But look, you're getting 30 minutes. You got to come down after the 30 minutes done. I'm expecting that you're going to come down after 30 minutes done. And there should be no anger in this conversation. And if he comes down after 10 minutes more, 40 minutes, oh, yeah, you had a really good time. I'm so glad you had such a good time today. Tomorrow we'll do something else. We won't be playing the video game tomorrow. I trusted you. I need to be able to trust you. And he also, Mataji, needs to be able to trust you. That if you say you're going to turn something off when you're going to turn it off, that you do turn it off. He's trusting your boundaries. Kids need boundaries, especially 8-year-olds. It's different for teenagers, a little different for teenagers. Teenagers also need boundaries. If you make a rule, you follow it. Every time you let it go, oh, it's okay. Oh, I don't want to fight. Oh, I don't want to get. Then they think, oh, this is useless. These rules are useless. I don't have to pay attention to any of these rules. All right?
Okay, Mataji. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. So thank you so much, all the Vaishnavas, and I hope to see and talk to you again later. I have to get going now, but thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. I don't know who all was here listening. If you are here, if you can if you can comment on whatever is posted up to say that you were listening, because I don't know who all was here and I'd love to personally connect. Thank you so much.
125 devotees were there, Mataji.
Say that again, Mataji?
25 devotees were there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And if you need more parenting tips, you can go on my Facebook page and get more parenting tips.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Gopi Mataji, Sita Priti here.
Hare Krishna. Oh, who is this?
Sita Priti.
Hare Bol Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for the lovely class. Hare Bol.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for the very, very beautiful class. Very helpful for all the parents. This is Shyama Gauri Devi Dasi from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So nice to hear your voice. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Jyoti again. Thank you so much for this beautiful and class filled with all practical solutions and handling our kids. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Mataji, Danut Pranam. This is Lalitangi Radha Devi Dasi from Charlotte. Every time you came on the conference, you gave a class. It makes an impression, like how when there was a couple who had a fire accident and they passed away. I think the Prabhu passed away, and you had to deal with the child, and how you were, you were explaining your experiences when you came for that class, and so many other classes when you give your personal examples, things that happened in your life with your kids, how you deal with them. So that's, that's something that motivates us, that why not we also follow. So we are very, very grateful for this. Thank you so much.
Okay, Mataji left, Mataji. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, we can end. Yes. Hare